What is up, you beautiful people, and welcome back to episode number 6 of the EBBY Space Agency career playthrough here on Kerbal Space Program. Today then, the vibe is going to be all about setting up a communications network. That's right, the cup and strings that we've been using so far to talk to spacecraft, we're starting to run out of string, and Werner von Kerman's getting a bit concerned about them all getting knotted up together and people listening into others' conversations. So we're going to have to set ourselves up with a ComSat network to not overcompensate, just compensate for it. But before we do that, we do need to head over to the Science Center. We managed to land ourselves on Minmus last episode, and we have science points to spend. So you see, we're about to sort of unlock a couple of nodes here. The first one being some aircraft parts, as well as then some more sort of specialized control parts. We also unlock a bit of a dead node there in the community tech tree, and then finally some smaller probe parts. And with all those points spent now, it's time to head over to the VAB. We're going to pull out a craft that we've already used before, the unplanned rescue probe, because we still have a Kerbal stranded in space due to the contract. So I'm going to pass you over now to the launch of that before we get into the meat of this episode, really. So the launch then, pretty straightforward. Nothing we haven't seen before. We used this craft a couple of times in the previous episode. If you haven't seen that, then now's your chance, I guess, to go watch it. We went through a lot more of in depth on the launch of it. But yeah, we get into orbit without too much sort of issue, shall we say, and we circularize off there. We set our sights then on the Mun, where we have 2 Kerbals who require rescuing. Now, I'll say ahead of time, this one proved to be a little bit more challenging than what I was anticipating when I launched this thing, because I didn't realize until I was in orbit of the Mun that these 2 Kerbals are actually going the opposite direction to each other. So you'll see in a second when we get up to orbit of the Mun. You see there we've circularized and we've made our transfer burn. But as we sort of circularize around the Mun, we start trying to set up a sort of intercept with one of them. Both Kerbals that we need to rescue are in going opposite directions. So one's going clockwise, one's going anti-clockwise, as you see there, perfectly sort of visualized. So we kind of have to be a bit creative with this. We keep our apoapsis nice and high to make the change nice and cheap when we have to hit the brakes and stick it in reverse, Terry. But we set up our first encounter here, and because we can't really afford to bring ourselves to a stop, then go back up, reverse, all that sort of stuff, we actually use the Kerbal to overcome the delta V difference. You see, we had about 80 meters per second, I think it was, at its peak of relative speed to the craft, but luckily, we use his EVA pack to overcome the difference there, and we start making our way over to the rescue craft. We try and get ourselves a little bit of EVA science there, but realize that it's been picked clean in previous missions. But yeah, I mean, the first Kerbal then, old Cloudtop, they managed to get to the rescue craft fairly easily and board and don't die in the cold recesses of space. And now it's time to wait and get ourselves up into apoapsis over the Mun. And essentially the plan is we're just going to hit the brakes, bring ourselves to a complete stop, and then go in the opposite direction, which we do pull off, and then we basically set ourselves up once again with another sort of rendezvous and do the exact same thing essentially. So you see we've gathered the second Kerbal there into the command module and set ourselves up on a return trajectory. We fire ourselves quite high up above Kerbin just to again save the Delta V because we were running quite marginal before now hitting that re-entry. We do bounce off into space, but then on the second attempt we do capture. No real warnings in terms of heat or anything like that. We just nice and gentle re-enter the atmosphere and pop the parachutes as we poke through the cloud layers there before splashing down nice and sedately. And yeah, we now have ourselves 2 new Kerbals to add to our roster, basically. So yeah, we go ahead and we recover those 2, and we get the money and the science and all that back. And we do have enough money in hand now that we can safely go ahead and upgrade our science center. Before we then head over to mission control to take over 2 new contracts. So the first one then is a new orbital telescope around Kerbin. We'll do that in a future episode. And then finally a mission to haul a Mark II lander can into flight above Kerbin. So we'll be sending a mission up in one of those at some point this episode. But for now, it's over to the VAB to start building our comsats. So you see here we are building the majority of the satellite around a 0.6 meter size theme, I guess is probably the best way to say it. We had all the relay sats on there, and then we had a couple of communitrons and solar panels and stuff like that to make sure that we don't run out of range. Now, this first launch that we're going to do is a little bit different. Basically, I want to set up an interplanetary relay network on Kerbin's atmosphere. So I'm going to be launching 3 of these. They're going to be sitting about a quarter of the way around each around Kerbin's orbital path, I guess. So the idea being that if you add Kerbin to it, we have a big cross shape going through the sun, with each one of those being a satellite. And the idea is that we can then bounce messages around the sun if we do start sending things to Duna and things like that. But the probe is built. We're now adding our mounting system to get ready to launch them into space, basically. So you see there we're building a bit of a probe core for the actual sort of launcher pack thing, the mothership, for want of a better word. We start just adding our probes on. The idea being that this single launch goes up into interplanetary space. We go for an orbital period of 1.25 years, so that every time it pops down to Kerbin's periapsis, it drops another satellite off, and then goes up and all that. It basically cuts down on the amount of launches that we want to do, and yeah, I mean, the idea is there, and then obviously we're going to set up a geostationary satellites relay to make Kerbin that 4th relay satellite in that network. But you see there, we're using the 1.8 meter parts because we are launching this quite far out. So yeah, quite a large launch vehicle for what is essentially a 3-ton payload. The satellites themselves weigh about 1 ton each, but yeah, there's a lot of fuel required to get them up. But it is time for launch, so I'm going to hand you back over to Past Me now. Right, let's go for it. Yeet! Oh, she's a heavy bitch. She is a heavy bitch. This for a 3-ton payload, essentially. Lizzo 1. I like it. Our thrust away. Oh, she is a heavy bitch. I think we've done the most that we need to now. I'm going to start the pitch over. So, launch then, fairly simple, but obviously with the thruster weight of this thing, we had to make sure we got quite high up. That's why you see we're only really doing the gravity turn at about 30 kilometers, because the thruster weight on this this engine, with the tech level we have, wasn't really the best. But now you see we are accelerating towards orbital velocity. We do stage that upper engine, and now we're basically ready to pop the hood and head out towards interplanetary space. You see there we pop the fairing just before going into the night side of Kerbin. And yeah, we then start looking to get our escape burn from Kerbin. We want to aim to try and keep it as sort of level with Kerbin's orbit as we can. You know, so we're not going radial in, radial out, or anything like that. Basically, we just want to do one prograde burn, and we're off skis. As you see, we're doing that burn now. So we're aiming to get it sort of to an altitude which gives us an orbital period of, I think it's 532 days and 3 hours, or half a day. So 532 and a half days. That means that we should fall back to Kerbin's periapsis at exactly a quarter year behind Kerbin, and we do that 3 times. We release a satellite each time we fall to that periapsis, and then we have our satellite network. And you see we're just getting that fine-tuned now. Before we then decide, just quickly, before you wonder what the continuity is about, we just adjust the UI quickly there. And we set ourselves an alarm so that we remember to stage those satellites off before we then head back to the Space Center and the VAB to set up the second launch. So this one is essentially, like I said before, going to turn Kerbin into that 4th satellite. So we're sending another 3 of these comsats up into a geostationary network so that we can bounce those messages all the way around space. Yeah, we don't need as big a launch vehicle, so you see we've designed a new one there, but I'm going to hand you back over to Pass Me now so that you guys can see how that launch went in real time. Enjoy. SAS on, full throttle, and off. Bit better with a thrust to weight ratio this time. And yeah, again, another pretty peaceful launch. Great view there as we poke through the volumetric clouds. Nice cloud cover on Kerbin means we poke through to quite a nice view, I think. But yeah, we get up to orbit once again, nice and easy. We just burn out the fuel, circularize. You see there, we're just about to stage the upper stage, and I think we'd also pop the HUD here as well. Yeah, there you go. The fairing comes off, revealing exactly the same payload as we had before, but this time, instead of going into planetary, we're just going up to geostationary orbit. Which has a rough altitude aiming marker of about 2,863 kilometers. Basically, just aim for around about that number, and then when you burn prograde to sort of circularize, just get your orbital period to, you know, a day. So 3 hours, when you're at apoapsis, 3 hours to periaps. And then obviously it'll be 3 hours back to apoaps. You get the point. 6 hours of an orbital period, and you'll basically be in geostationary. You see there we do pop the first satellite off, so you see what this thing looks like, fully sort of opened up, ready to go, and then we point it prograde, and we use the fuel on board the actual satellite itself to fire off into the distance and circularize. You'll notice that the orbits are a little bit messy. The whole point is basically just to get them to as close to a geosynchronous orbit as we can for now, before fast forwarding through to get to the second launch. So you see we have only 3, so we're going to try and set these up in kind of like a triangular pattern around Kerbin, so that we get good coverage. And the important thing here is once they're all up, we then set them on the same orbital period, so they don't really catch up or slow down compared to each other. As you see, we now sort of detach the second one. That pretty much goes much the same as the first. You know, we all circularize and all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to show you the third one detaching from the mothership, which we're just doing now. This one is ever so slightly different in that we have 4 engines on it instead of 3. We had to change up the engine cluster layout just to make the decouplers work with it, basically. But again, exactly the same. But you see, this time we're kind of setting all the satellites to target each other, just so that we can set them on the same orbit as each other, neaten things up, as you see there. We've circularized. I think they are ever so slightly like radial in, but the point is that the orbital period is exactly 1 Kerbin day, and they are all equal to each other, so they won't catch up to each other or fall behind, and that's the satellite network done. But you see, we're in the VAB now, setting up our final mission of the episode, basically. So we're just going to be sending up another crew to Minmus to land, but we're going to be using the Mark II lander can this time to check off that mission we took earlier. But you see, very, very basic lander. We put 4 switch engines on the bottom as well. That becomes relevant later on, you'll see why. Yeah, a fairly simple lander, nothing too expensive or exotic about it. But we are using the 2.5 meter parts, which is good. We don't have the fairings for these yet, so this is essentially going to be just a big metal tube flying through the air at launch, which is coming up in a second. So once again, I'm going to hand you back over to past me. We're about to find out. Basically just a flying dustbin. Yeah, so the the flying dustbin, I think I called it there, makes it into orbit fairly simply. We're just burning that transfer stage now to circularize, and then we're going to set our sights on Minmus. Again, fairly easy. We've done this a few times now already. We just set ourselves up with the encounter for Minmus and burn to get that encounter. But you see, something happens during this burn as we're about to stage. I'm going to hand you over to pass me to show exactly what went down. Doing most of the work getting us there, which is ideal. Okay, something went boom. That's not ideal. We have 2 engines out of the 4 that I put on there. That's bad. So, yeah, as past me said, that's bad. Basically, the decoupler had, like, clipped in. There was a bit of shoddy designing on my part. So as we staged it, 2 of those engines popped, which I don't know why only 2 of them did and 4 didn't, but luckily, they were on opposite sides of the ship to each other. So we spent a bit of time sort of contemplating whether or not to scrub the launch, but we realized the thrust-to-weight ratio was enough to go ahead and go for the landing on Minmus anyway. So, thankfully, obviously, the engines exploded the way they did. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't have been able to continue with the launch, and we would have had to have set ourselves up on a free return. But you see there, we set our landing site to this nice little sort of valley on some of the flats, and we set ourselves up for a landing, which, yeah, now that we're sort of closer to Minmus, I'm going to hand you once again over to pass me to see how that went down. There we go, buttered. And, right, well, we are we are situated. So yeah, we managed to set down on the surface of Minmus, despite missing 2 of our engines, without having to sort of stick it on full throttle or anything. So it just shows how A, light this lander is, and also B, how low Minmus's gravity is that we were able to do that. I don't think we'd be able to do that on the Mun. But you see, we get Tail to jump out and grab all the experiments. And also, we still have the mission to get the green sandstone, so we kind of clumsily fly her over to try and grab that, but for whatever reason, we just can't figure out how to get it. So yeah, I'll pass you over to me for my reaction on that. That's gotta be green sandstone. I just don't know. I don't think I can get it, you know.
You sure about that? You sure about that?
So, yeah. In editing, I realized that it was flashing up, and I was screaming it past me to notice it and grab this green sandstone. But yeah, your boy's blind as all hell, so we left it behind. We jump in, we have a quick look in the lander cam for the free IVA mod, and then we jump Gwen and E out to plant the flag, as is tradition. But yeah, we didn't accomplish that mission due to my own incompetence. But we do hop into the lander, we take off again, and I mean, the rest of the mission kind of goes without too much of a hitch. We get ourselves up into orbit of Minmus. We set ourselves up on an escape trajectory. We set ourselves up quite high above Kerbin, and then we just burn periaps. We have the life support on board to be able to do that. But yeah, we set ourselves up on a descent now, and we grab a little bit of high Kerbin science just to try and complete that off. Before then, obviously, hopping back in with all the experiments in the lander can in case the Science Junior explodes like it has done in the past, before we then head for re-entry. We do make 2 passes of this, but yeah, we then on the second attempt, well, second pass, not attempt really, but second pass, we capture properly and descend right on down. You see, with the pool that shoots up quite high on this one, and we float on down for a nice peaceful splashdown in the ocean. And yeah, from there, obviously, it's just a matter of recovering the capsule. We get a bunch of science again, and a bit of money back, and a bit of experience for our Kerbals before we then go and unlock a couple more nodes in the science tree. So we look at yeah, a bit of heavier rocketry and a couple of specialized parts, as well as new command modules. But that is basically it for the episode, guys. I think I'd say we've accomplished a fair bit. You know, we've got a ComSat network up in orbit, we've recovered a couple of Kerbals, and we've shown that even despite my best efforts of failure, we can still land on Minmus. But yeah, I mean, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. You know, could I have done anything differently? And if you did enjoy the video, please do hit that like and subscribe button. It does help the channel out a lot. But for now, guys, that is the end of the video. So thank you all for watching, and as always, I will catch you in the next one. Goodbye.